Hey guys, and welcome to part 2 of our Unit 7 Motivation, Emotion, Stress, and Health and Personality unit. We are going to get started by talking about Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is basically just a sequence or hierarchy of different things that he feels you must satisfy before you can achieve the next level. So like your physiological is your hunger and your thirst. If you, for example, come to school and you haven't eaten in 2 days, you're not really focused on AP Stat or AP Psych or government. You're more focused on when you're going to have your next meal. However, the highest need, self-actualization, or the motivation to reach your fullest potential, might not actually be achieved by everyone. And Abraham Maslow knows it is very difficult to reach this point. Next, we have the self-determination theory. And this is just that we have physiological needs that are innate, and every single person has them. And these 3 basic needs are competence or self-efficacy, which is just a belief that you have, like the ability or the competence to achieve a goal or a task, and relatedness, warm relations with others, the needing to belong. Sometimes if you feel unintentionally excluded, or you feel like something in a group chat is worded and you're like, oh my God, they're talking about me, you might give yourself that extra stress, and you might make poor life choices. And then autonomy, independence, having self-reliance, which now we see older Americans feel more autonomous when you engage in these same behaviors. And I saw that in a perfect example, voting. When I was first voting in 2008, I was really nervous. I made sure I would sit down with my aunt and talk about all of the candidates and the pros and cons, and really making sure I had so much information laid out. Whereas now I do that same thing, but I'm not asking my aunt, like, hey, make sure I'm reading these right, or make sure I'm getting the information down right. Next, we have our intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. And this one is a repeat from last unit. Intrinsic are internal motivators, the key to achieving, wanting to do well for yourself, versus extrinsic motivation, which is our external incentives, rewards or punishments, like if you don't get an A on the next test, you don't get to go get ice cream from Cold Stone. But they can help make up who you are and what you'll do to reach certain goals. Next, we have self-regulation, which is just a process by which our behaviors are put into order to pursue more important objectives. You can't be happy all the time. So one of our things is like, all right, if we're negative, what made us negative? What can we do to help make sure that, maybe something not as negative happens again in the future? We have goals, whether it's a project that you want to do well on, be a good person, work on just like personal goals to help be better. With goal setting, you guys probably have heard this a lot. You can do the SMART goals, like specifics at a time. But this same kind of thing, make it a little bit challenging. Don't make it so that it's impossible to reach. Make sure there is purpose, and you give yourself short-term short-term goals within it to help you achieve it. And make sure you evaluate your progress, and that's how you really get to be a high-achieving adult or individual. Next, we're going to go into emotion, which is just a feeling or an effect that can involve physiological arousal, heartbeat, thinking, behavior, expressions, all of those. Physiological arousal, again, automatic nervous system, sympathetic arouses, parasympathetic calms, parasympathetic parachute calms you from falling. We have the big breakdown of the central nervous system again. Again, this is a repeat from Unit 2, I want to say, where we talked about the brain, so just make sure you have this down. Again, comparing our sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system with blood flow to the brain. The sympathetic nervous system, it increases on that side, decreases on the opposite. So they're just kind of opposites right here. And then measuring arousal, we can do it SCL, skin conductance level, and a rise in the skin's electrical conductivity when we sweat conducts better electricity. And then a polygraph, a machine that can also be called a lie detector. It also looks at your heart rate, your breathing, your SCL. There's neutral questions that are kind of just like, do you like birds? Versus targeted questions that ask more specific details. However, an fMRI can detect deception better, which is kind of interesting. But, you know, a lot of people still do polygraph tests. Hope you guys all have a great evening, and talk to you.